Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our Joyful Journeys very special interview series this week, celebrating Women's Equality Day, where we're highlighting journeys and stories from stellar women in our community who are out there in male-dominated careers, male-dominated fields, tackling that glass ceiling and busting through it and making way for the next generation. I am thrilled today to be joined as kind of a mini panel by two of Arlington County's finest. Today, I have with me Cheryl Long and Carly Hutchison of the Arlington County Fire Department. So ladies, thank you so much for being here with me today. I will go ahead and get started. We want to dive in and hear from Carly and Cheryl directly. Um, First off, tell us about your role within the Arlington County Fire Department and your journey to become a firefighter.
I work as a firefighter paramedic for Arlington County Fire Department. I've worked here for about 4 years, but I've actually been involved in emergency medical services for about 10 years. I was lucky enough to get my EMT cert when I was 16 through high school. My current assignment here is at the Fire Training Academy. So I'm part of the training cadre or the instructors. So I directly oversee a group of 5 recruits. I teach lectures and I teach necessary skills like bleeding control, forcing doors, things like that.
Very cool, Carly. And Cheryl, how about you?
Hi, I'm Cheryl Long, and I'm a captain with the department and also a paramedic. Been with the department, this is my 19th year. I've had a great career. My current assignment is a battalion chief's aide. So I'm kind of responsible for making sure the battalion chief, who happens to be a woman too, and one of my best friends. So we have a lot of fun. But I keep her organized when we respond to incidents. I'm making sure I can track our units, anticipating what the needs would be for the call, and making sure we get those resources by communicating with our dispatch center. And I'm also responsible for our staffing for the day. My journey into the fire service, this was not something I ever saw myself doing. I kind of wanted to be a pediatrician, but the world had other plans. But I still get to apply what I've learned, in college, out on EMS calls or in the community. So it really aligns with, what my overall goals were for myself. So.
That's amazing. I absolutely love that you guys both have longevity. Cheryl, 19 years of service is completely outstanding. And Carly, finding this when you were 16 years old is, I mean, so inspirational, especially to our girls who might be listening, who might be hitting 16 years old, in the next few years. And also that you are both in positions of leadership. I feel like that's so important, especially in this week's conversation that we're having with different women across the board, with representation in fields that are male dominated. Carly, you leading your training battalion of 5 through their education process, and then Cheryl being a captain. Definitely honored to have you guys with us, not just as firefighters representing, the female cohort there, but as women in leadership in this field as well. So in the US, little statistic, only 9% of firefighters roughly are women. And, Cheryl and Carly and Cheryl, your boss, an even smaller number of those women are in leadership roles in their departments. So why is female representation in firefighting and emergency services field really important to you?
I believe that any emergency service group should reflect the community that they serve as accurately as possible. So our population is much more than 9% women. So I believe that the fire department should reflect that to better serve the community.
Yeah,
diversity is really important. Sorry, Cheryl.
Right.
It's really important because I feel it provides perspective and ensures that all demographics are going to receive the essential, unbiased care that they all need. And I feel like this is especially important because many fire departments in the country now cover emergency medical services as well. So they're doing both, providing medical care and taking care of any fire-related issues. But when it comes to medical issues, having a provider that you can relate to and feel comfortable with will make a big difference with some patients and the quality of care that they receive.
100%. That makes total sense. Cheryl, how about you?
I think Carly kind of hit a lot of what I was going to say. We bring that very unique and perspective, especially to our Northern Virginia area. We're very diverse. So there's a lot of strength when we come to the table with, our experiences and our perspective, especially because firefighting is teamwork. So having a mixed voice and representation only makes us better as an organization. But then something else is when they see us, like this next generation sees us on calls, that kind of gives them, this confidence and inspiration to know that, they could even be in this role. Because like I said earlier, I never imagined I would be doing this because I never saw a female firefighter.
That's a really good point. Yeah, representation, Carly, what you mentioned about wanting to mirror the community, and Cheryl, providing that inspiration to the next generation. I think those are two really critical aspects of why female representation is important. And Carly, I feel like you touched on this a little bit. It's going to lead me into my next question naturally, of how women do have a different perspective. We do see through different biases in a way that's unique to us as our experience as women. And so earlier this week, we chatted with Shauna Moeller. She's a police officer over in the city of Manassas, about that intersection of being a woman in public service and how impactful our unique perspective can be when we're serving the community. So Carly and Cheryl, can you tell me about a time when you've tapped into your power as a woman to better serve your community in your role within the fire department?
I actually had a medical call. It was just general illness. It was for a young girl. And the vibe just felt kind of off. Like on scene, I was like talking to this patient, something's a little bit like it's not adding up. Some of the stories aren't quite making sense. And the people around me all happened to be men on the same crew, and they weren't having the same feeling that I was having with that. But I ended up getting a moment alone with the patient, and then they disclosed to me something that had happened to them that they did not want to share to the whole group or to their parent for fear of getting in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And after they told me that, they're like, I'm so happy that there was like a female firefighter here that I could talk to someone. I wasn't comfortable talking to any of the men here. And I just feel that because the patient was able to feel comfortable enough to tell me what was going on, we could provide better resources. And I just don't know that I would have had that same gut instinct without my perspective that I have.
Yeah, that's critically important. I know when I had this conversation earlier with Shauna, our police officer over in the city of Manassas, she said something very similar, that when you're responding in a crisis, having somebody there that quite frankly just looks like you can instantly build a level of trust that maybe might not exist otherwise. And you being able to go, above and beyond for your level of care with her, speaks volumes to that importance again, as to why representation is critical. Cheryl, what about you? A time that you've tapped into your power as a woman, being unique
I,
to this role?
I feel like we do this every day. Anytime we show up on a call, we're always contributing. And like Carly already said, a lot of it is on medical calls. My favorites are childbirths, because being through it, I couldn't imagine delivering a baby at home or on a call, with just a bunch of men. And so every delivery I've done, it's always been this connection with the mother, and she always has like, it's so nice that there is a woman here, to help coach me through this. And so that really makes an impact on me to, continue to show up, and that, I am making a difference on these calls. But again, representation, when we go out into the community and we're doing public education or community engagement, it's one thing to say, hey, we can do whatever we want in the world and we can be anything. I find myself telling that to my own daughter who's in elementary school, but then to actually be that, living it, and, an example. It gives them the confidence again to really know and see it, that they can be a firefighter or someone in public safety.
100%. And Cheryl, that beautifully, I don't know if you did this or not, sets me up for our last and final question. Our hope is with this interview series, we have women, across our network listening, our coaches, our parents, but most importantly, we really hope that there are some Girls on the Run participants listening in today. And we want them to be inspired and empowered to as they imagine their futures, imagine it however they see fit. If that's stepping into an emergency service field and role, being a firefighter, police officer, EMT. So where do you see the future of women in firefighting progressing? And what advice would you give to, let's say, an elementary school girl who aspires to get out there and save lives one day?
I see the field of emergency services becoming more diverse and taking steps to make the culture more welcoming towards women. And I absolutely see more women joining the fire department and continuing to take on these leadership roles. I think that a big thing that we can do to help facilitate that is going to just be empowering girls from a younger age. Just like Cheryl, I had never considered being a firefighter because I had only ever seen male firefighters. So I just kind of thought it was not in the realm of possibilities. But then someone told me directly that I would not be able to do it. So that was a good motivator for me and very powerful. So that kind of put me to work. And then I was able to get into a position where I was able to get this job. And for me, that was motivating. But had I thought of that from a younger age, I would have joined even sooner because I was already doing the work. And having been involved in EMS for about 10 years now, when I first started, we would run calls. Like I said, I never saw any women as firefighters. But now, if I'm out visiting or traveling anywhere, I see female firefighters more and more often as time goes on. And I've been very lucky at Arlington County Fire Department to have a strong female role models within the department. And just seeing strong women who are great at their jobs, they're great at leadership roles, it's such a powerful motivator. And it shows newer, less experienced members that they can grow that much in the job and they can succeed to that level.
I love that. I love that prove them wrong mentality. As a former stubborn kid,
Yes.
I totally resonates with me that lights the fire under you to go out and do it. That's me to a T as well. Cheryl, how about you? Where do you see, the future of women in firefighting progressing, and what's that advice you'd give?
I love this question because of everything that I've been through and my experiences, but I still believe that the future for the women in the fire service or firefighting or emergency services is so incredibly bright. We're seeing more and more of us stepping up, taking on these leadership roles and sitting at tables that we've never been invited to. And not only are we sitting at these tables, we're able to contribute in ways that, I don't think our male colleagues ever imagined. And what's even cooler lately is we're starting to see even more women kind of commanding those tables or even creating other tables, that weren't there. So that's been really awesome to kind of see and even sort of be a part of that. As far as advice for like an elementary aged girl trying to, come into this field, I find myself again going back to what I tell my daughter. And a lot of that is just kind of flipping the script of how we talk to ourselves. I know like a lot of the times we're very hard on ourselves, we're very negative, and we push ourselves very to the limit. But if we kind of maybe change that and start speaking more positively, and asking ourselves, maybe why not why is this happening to me, but more of like what can I learn from this, or taking a more positive approach and mindset will do amazing like wonders for our growth, and think of it more as like a growth mindset.
Yeah, I love that, especially like with all the conversations we're having this week with women from diverse fields. You guys are representing emergency services. We spoke with a police officer, financial advisor. Coming up, we're going to be talking with women professional football players. And I think that mindset that you said, that growth mindset and asking yourself, what does this have the power to teach me, is so important, because even if we face challenges as women in our lives, whether we are facing challenges as women in a male dominated field, as long as we can reflect on that growth and find empowerment in that growth, that I feel like can just continue to push us forward. Well, thank you, ladies, so much. We're so honored to be joined by you all. Also, we'll give a special shout out to Arlington County Fire Department, Emergency Services, and the police for hosting our 5Ks twice a year, every year, keeping us safe out there on the streets while we have a fun time. But Carly and Cheryl, it was an honor for you guys to join us today, and we're so grateful for the ceilings that you are shattering for the girls coming up behind you, and how you're being out there in the community to be an inspiration, be an example to girls who can look up and say, I can do that one day. So thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
This episode of Joyful Journeys is brought to you by Girls on the Run of Northern Virginia.